Election is scheduled on 3 consecutive Sundays from January 4th to 18th, 2015. While the Kaifeng representative election will be held on January 25th, 2015. The Home Affairs Department will send polling notices to registered electors stating the date, time and address of the polling station 10 days before the poll. For inquiries, please call 2152-1521 or visit the dedicated website. All eligible electors do come and vote.
Next on 60 Minutes, the governor of Colorado talks about being the first state to legalize the recreational use of marijuana, and severely wounded veterans overcoming the tallest mountains. Saturday night, 60 Minutes at 6:30 on Pearl.
Major developer donates Yuen Long site for city's largest youth hostel. Chief executive brushes aside claims he's suppressing free speech. And a foiled plot to attack US Capitol building. Good evening. Henderson Land chairman and property tycoon Lee Shao-ki has donated a plot of land in Yuen Long to Paul and Cook to build the largest youth hostel in Hong Kong. And as Stephanie Choi reports, renters could be in for a market discount.
This 63,000 square foot plot at Martin Pok in Yuen Long will house Hong Kong's largest youth hostel. Upon completion, it will be 25 stories high and provide 1,250 rooms for 1,600 residents. Each room will be about 300 square feet in size.
It's expected that 2/3 of the total number of rooms in the youth hostel will be single rooms and the rest will be double rooms.
Eligible applicants must be 18 to 30 years old with a maximum monthly income of $15,000. There are other restrictions.
For example, asset not exceeding 300,000 to 600,000 respectively for individual and family.
Residents could rent the rooms at 50% off market price and stay at the hostel for a maximum of 5 years. The plot of land is surrounded by residential areas. Right now, there are no malls or eateries around. If you want to get there by train, you can get off at the Long Ping station on the West Rail Line and take a 20-minute shuttle bus ride. And 2 nearby bus routes take you directly to Kowloon and Hong Kong Island. It's pretty remote out here, says this resident. Public transport is inconvenient, he adds. The government has welcomed the project. Secretary for Home Affairs Zhang Dak-sing said relevant departments are now working with his bureau to help move the project along. He said if the hostel meets government requirements, authorities will request funding from the Legislative Council. If things go according to plan, the youth hostel will be completed in 2018. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
Lee Shao-ki today also announced plans to redevelop Tai Hang Sai Estate in Shek Kip Mei. That's aimed at offering affordable housing for young home buyers. Lee said the project will generate 5,000 units priced at about $1 million each. Buyers will not be required to make a down payment and can pay off the mortgage over 10 or 20 years. The plan is yet to be endorsed by the government. The retirement age for civil servants will be pushed back by 5 years. The new rules will go into effect later this year. Owen Fong reports.
In his policy address yesterday, the chief executive suggested pushing back the retirement age for civilian staff of the government from 60 to 65. Those in disciplinary services won't need to retire until 60, also a 5-year extension of their retirement age.
If all civil servants are allowed to extend their service without regard to their performance or skills, then that may lead to mismatch of manpower, and also that may be undue blockage of promotion and lack of healthy turnovers. We will just adjust existing further employment mechanisms, so management will have more flexibility to retain serving civil servants beyond retirement age.
Tang said the government will institutionalize the selection process in accordance with the modus operandi for promotion and recruitment to ensure fairness. A new post-retirement contract scheme will also be introduced so that departments can still hire retired civil servants on contract terms. And because civil servants will work for the government for longer, the government will adjust its contributions to the Provident Fund schemes of new recruits so as to control expenses.
New recruits, they will still enjoy the maximum contribution rate of 25%. The only difference is that they may have to work longer before they could achieve the maximum contribution rate.
Tang added that although the measures may not satisfy all co-workers, he believes it's the most pragmatic way forward. Owen Fung, TVB News.
Meanwhile, experts are warning the government not to let the retirement protection issue become deadlocked between deeply divided views in society. Diane To reports.
Last year, academic Nelson Chow was commissioned by the government to put forward a number of universal retirement protection scheme proposals. But yesterday, the chief executive said he's not hopeful that different parties can come to a consensus on the issue of retirement protection. Leung Chun-ying said a public consultation will be conducted on the matter later this year, with some noting that the CE left out the term universal when talking about it. Chow said today he was really disappointed, saying that there's been no direction given on how to improve the present social security arrangements for the elderly.
Perhaps if they are not going to have a universal pension scheme, I think one of the ways to help the needy elderly is to improve our present old age living supplement and cover about 60 to 70% of our elderly people to make sure when they retire, they will have a steady income.
Chow said the CE has clearly ruled out a universal pension scheme, but he stressed it is not the only way to improve retirement protection. He urged people to continue discussing other options. Academic Law Chi Kwong, a member of the Commission on Poverty, echoed Chow's calls. Law, who's helping the government put together the framework of the upcoming consultation, warned that if people focus only on a universal pension scheme, then society may end up with nothing. To move forward, Law is suggesting a government-run annuity plan that will ensure retirees receive an amount to support their basic spending each month until they pass away. The idea is that one makes an investment in the annuity, and it then makes payments to you at a later date or a series of dates. Law said such a scheme could allow retirees a higher standard of living and even help boost the economy, since they would be more willing to spend their money. He pointed out that there are similar products offered by banks and insurance companies, but it's not very popular due to the high risks involved, adding that most successful annuity plans in the world are run by governments. Diane To, TVB News.
The chief executive is denying claims he's suppressing free speech by making reference to publications of the Hong Kong University Students' Union. Leung Chun-ying was on the defensive at a Legislative Council session as he took questions from lawmakers over his policy address. Here again is Diane To.
At the centre of the controversy is an article in a book published by the University of Hong Kong Student Union. The article, published last year in the official magazine of the Student Union, talked about Hong Kong people deciding their own fate, while the book called on Hong Kong people to be self-reliant and focus on self-determination. The chief executive said during his policy address yesterday that both publications have misstated some facts and that legislators who have a close relationship with students should advise them against putting forward such fallacies. Today, lawmakers bombarded Leung Chun-ying with questions about his comments, claiming that they pose a threat to freedom of speech.
This policy address, in the introduction and in the conclusion, is turning this document into a manifesto for political struggle. Hardly ever do I see any attempt like this in the policy address. Everybody can take part in the discussion. That is the essence of freedom of speech.
Leung said he talked about the opportunities and the choices that have to be exercised, whether in terms of political issues or economic issues. He said we have to stay alert. He added that we cannot deviate from the system in Hong Kong and the constitutional setup in Hong Kong. Following the meeting, pan-democratic lawmakers expressed disappointment towards the CE's performance.
he did not answer the questions. He decided to twist the questions, distorted the intentions of lawmakers' questions, and instead put into the place whatever he wanted to say to please Xi Jinping and all those powerful people in Beijing.
Diane To, TVB News.
Overseas and in the US state of Ohio, a man claiming to have sympathy with Islamic State militants was arrested in connection with a plot to attack the US Capitol building with guns and bombs. In a separate case, also in Ohio, another man was charged with threatening to murder US House of Representatives Speaker John Boehner. Alan Buckner has the details.
The FBI says 20-year-old Christopher Connell of Cincinnati researched the construction of pipe bombs, bought 2 semi-automatic rifles, and 600 rounds of ammunition, and made plans to travel to Washington to attack the Capitol. In a meeting with an FBI informant in November, Connell said he considered members of Congress his enemies. He outlined a plan to place pipe bombs near the Capitol and use his firearms to kill employees and officials inside. He was arrested yesterday after buying the rifles. Connell's father said his son could not have carried out a plot like that and speculated he might have been coerced.
He never showed any signs of any kind of violence or anything. I mean, quiet, shy.
The owner of the gun store where Connell bought the rifles said there was nothing unusual about Connell as a customer.
Nothing really out of the ordinary about him at all. Certainly nothing that would indicate that he was involved in something of this magnitude.
The FBI says there's no indication Connell was working with any group or individual on the plot. It said the public was not in danger during the investigation. Meanwhile, in nearby Deer Park, Ohio, police charged a man with threatening to murder Republican House Speaker John Boehner. Michael Hoyt was a bartender at a country club Boehner sometimes went to. Hoyt owned firearms. Police interviewed him after he called the emergency hotline 911 last October and asked them to tell his father he was sorry. Hoyt told the officer who interviewed him he was Jesus Christ and he was going to kill Boehner because the House Speaker was mean to him and was responsible for the Ebola outbreak. A federal court judge later ordered Hoyt to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. He was indicted on January 10th, but the case was not made public until Tuesday. The FBI said Boehner, who represents the North District of Cincinnati, was aware of the situation. Alan Buckner, TVB News.
French readers are lining up for a second day to get their hands on the first issue of Charlie Hebdo since the Paris attacks. A second run of the satirical newspaper is being printed to meet demand after it sold out within minutes yesterday. And once again, the controversial weekly is generating intense reactions. James Aiken reports.
Charlie Hebdo's defiant new issue sold out before dawn on Wednesday, with some scuffles even breaking out as copies dwindled. The so-called Survivor issue is in such demand that a copy sold on the UK version of auction site eBay for £100,000. But the latest issue, which portrays the Prophet Muhammad on its cover, is generating mixed reaction among Muslims living in Paris. This man calls the cover a provocation, but another man welcomed the issue. Today we are all Charlie, says this Paris resident. Elsewhere, people continue to visit a makeshift memorial outside the Charlie Hebdo offices.
It's a problem of freedom. That's why I want to be here with my daughter. She has to see that la liberté d'expression. Freedom.
At the British Parliament, the Prime Minister said it doesn't matter if one agrees or disagrees with the opinions expressed in the paper.
What matters is we should always defend the right of people to publish whatever is inside the law and, in their opinion, right to publish. That's our job, and we must do it properly.
In Istanbul, Islamist protesters threatened a Turkish pro-secular daily that published a selection of cartoons from the latest issue of Charlie Hebdo. Turkey's government has ordered a ban on access to websites